Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of Daily Tips, Noodles and Shreddin. Well, I'm gonna start off by answering some things that were sent to me yesterday in private messages on Facebook. First of all, somebody asked how come I do this for free, and why do I do this? And I do it because I love you guys. No, seriously, just come out to Marbin shows, pick up a CD if you guys feel all the stuff is on for free on Spotify. If you look for Marbin, we have 6 albums out. The most important thing for us is that, we feel very grateful to be in a situation where we make music and people listen to it. I know that's, something a lot of people really want, and it's something that we got going for us, and you have no idea how good that feels. So yeah, if you dig it, don't be a dick, buy it. Cool. And we're cool, and I'll keep posting, and we'll keep doing this, and I'm glad all of you guys are happy and feel like that you're learning something. And hope you dig the explanation. Another guy asked me to tell the Nazi Carl story that he heard me tell live. We always tell crazy shit that happens to us on the road. So before we get into some music stuff, basically what happened was in 2012 we were touring with our group at the time, which had Justin Lawrence on drums, who's like a black gospel drummer. I'm saying black because it's important to the story, not because I'm racist. And we had Ian Stewart, who is like a prog Latin bassist. And we were playing in Carbondale, Illinois. We had a gig at a place called PK's, which is short for Pizza King. And we showed up at like 2 p.m., had all day to spend there. And there was a girl there, and I forgot her name, Mary Jo, and I think it was Mary Jo. Anyways, I started talking to her. She's sitting at the bar, like frailing a little acoustic guitar, and I introduced myself. I introduced the band. We're Marbin, blah blah blah, and she invites us over to a barbecue. She says this guy died, and they're having a barbecue for his wake thing. We're like, that's kind of weird, but free food, fuck it. We're been on the road. So we follow her car, we get to this trailer park, and she just takes off. I guess she felt bad or something, and she just leaves us there. And it's the 4 of us, and the barbecue is like this crying 40-year-old lady whose boo just died or something, and then this 60-year-old dude named Bob grilling. And we're like, all right. So we're sitting there like drinking like Bud Light and eating pork like good Jews. And we're just talking, having a good time. I'm singing some Johnny Cash songs. And then his roommate steps out of the trailer. And Bob points at this guy and he goes like, hey fellas, meet Carl. He's the sweetest guy and he hates everyone that loves him. And out steps Carl, and he's like 6'3" or something, like a big guy with like a cut-off shirt and these tattoos of swastikas and iron crosses running down his arms. And we're like, shit, Carl can't tell we're Jewish, but he can tell Justin's black, so it might be a situation. So, this guy being like, the gentleman that he is, looks at us and he's like, who the fuck are you and what the fuck are you doing here? And we're like, we're Marbin, we're playing PK's tonight, you should come out, hang. And he goes, do you guys play any of that hippie bullshit? We're like, no sir, we play jazz fusion. And he looks at us and he's like, are you kidding me? I love jazz fusion. And we're like, shit. So we start to have like a real jazz fusion talk. And 2012 was right before we go on the road, right before we went opening for Alan Holdsworth for a month. And this was on the horizon. And this guy, I guess, is the number 1 Alan fan. Like, I don't know if it's Alan's music, but it has Nazi appeal. So, this guy's starting to talk to us about Alan's music. And we're like, we know Alan, blah, blah, blah. So he comes out to the show, has a great time, takes the poster of the band from the bathroom, has us sign it. And right now in the bedroom of Nazi Carl, if he's still alive, is a signed poster of a black dude, 2 Jews, and Ian Stewart. So that's why I believe Marbin's the cure for all racism, really. Anyways, jumping into music. So I could see that the number 1 thing that people wrote to me about confused was the difference between scales and modes. And let me just kind of reiterate why people get confused about this. Scales, like I said, by the way, if you didn't see the scale one, go back to episode 2 and watch the scale one. But scales are abstract ideas, and people that are not used to think about abstract things have a real problem grasping that. So a C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, does not have a start point or an end point. Now, it's hard to think about that. Think about these 7 notes floating in space, no beginning, no end. C Ionian is a C major scale starting on C. Now, the reason it's helpful to think about this group is that if I practice my C major scale and understand that C major could be played on, that those notes have different sounds when the notes themselves are the root, then you can access these 7 sounds. Now I know that sounded kind of, if you don't understand this already, then that sounded kind of weird. But you have to understand that music has gravity. What's that mean? It means that if I'm playing a C major scale and my neighbor on the other room is playing a D on bass, I'm playing D Dorian. It doesn't matter if I think how I think about it. That's what's happening. Because we measure from the lowest note in the music. The bass, the lowest note in the music, determines how the things above it sound. So if I'm playing this, and under me is a thing that goes, which is a D minor, everything I play doesn't matter. I can't force it to be a major sound against that thing. If the accompaniment that my neighbor playing bass switches it to an F, then whatever I play, that group of notes sounds Lydian. Because these high notes measured against that low note create that sound. Now, this approach, the modal approach, that's a nice way to think about it. Like a group of notes relative to its own notes. But to me, it doesn't start there. I think the missing part of information for a lot of people is understanding that chord symbols represent formulas and modes represent formulas. And to understand what I mean by that, you got to have 2 pieces of information. You have to know your root, you have to know the note names, and you have to know how to play intervals. What's that mean? That means that, like, let's say I'm in the key of G, okay? Well, here's my G. What I need to be able to do is follow, like, these construction orders. Think about it like recipes. Like, I'm gonna give you a piece of information that's always true, okay? There's 4 types of triads: major, minor, diminished, and augmented. That's it. Each one of them is a recipe. So major tells me that it's 1, 3, 5. It's always going to be 1, 3, 5. So if I'm in G and I know relative to that root, to the G root, where the 3rd and the 5th is, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5. So I have all these 1, 3, 5s. 1 flat 3, 5 is minor. 1 flat 3 flat 5 is diminished. 1 3 sharp 5 is augmented. Okay? So now the way I like to practice this initially, we're in later episodes I'll get into talking about tonality, how to analyze songs, how to know what to play over what. But for now, the most important thing is to understand and memorize the formulas by their modal names. Okay, and to me, all the chord symbols are a part of that. So if I just, I know most of you play guitar, so if you think about it in E, here's my E string, let's just do it on one string to where we can see the differences. Okay, so here's root, open E, here's 3, G sharp, and the 5th is B. Okay, so that's a E major. E minor is E, G, B. E diminished is E, G, B flat. E augmented is E, G sharp, C. Or B sharp. It's a sharp 5, but I call it C. Okay, so now let's talk about the 4-part harmony structures. Meaning when you see E major 7, major 7 is a formula for 1, 3, 5, 7. 1, 3, 5, 7. E7, dominant 7, is 1, 3, 5, flat 7. Okay? E minor 7, 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. E minor major 7, 1, flat 3, 5, major 7, or 7. E minor 7, flat 5, 1, flat 3, 5, flat 5, flat 7. E diminished 7, that's 1, flat 3, flat 5, double flat 7, which is the same as a 6. E6, 1, 3, 5, 6. E minor 6, 1, flat 3, 5, 6. Okay, those are 4-note structures. Now, when I say Ionian, E Ionian, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. When I say Dorian, E Dorian, it's 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. Phrygian is 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. Okay? Lydian, 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? Then Mixolydian, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, root. Then, what do we have? Aeolian, 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, root. Then the last one, Locrian, 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7, root. Now, you memorize these formulas and you know where to play them based on the root. The advantage, if you move them somewhere, like let's say you start them on G and you have the recipe to create them in your mind. To me, when I'm playing on chord changes, listen, a lot of people will say, well, all this theoretical stuff, what happened? George Benson is an intuitive player. Why can't I be like Benson? Yeah, George Benson's an intuitive player, and birds can fly, and cheetahs can run like 70 miles per hour, but I can't do any of that shit. And my way of making progress is through awareness and through understanding things. Now, I understand if you grow up in in a jazz club and you start playing gigs like at the age of 4, and I don't know, you're raised by like Timberwolves, your life takes this path and you become an awesome intuitive player. Most of the intuitive players I know hit a shitload of weird sounding notes because they don't know what to play over what. They don't understand how things are connected. I don't hit so many weird notes. I hit mostly the notes I want, and if and when I don't, I go like this, because I can hear it, because I taught myself to hear it. So I think a big part is kind of, giving up that idea of becoming an intuitive player at the age of 20-something, 40-something, and committing to the path of awareness. You know what I mean? I want to know what everything's called. Theory is not about giving, all it is giving names to sounds. You know what I mean? Not giving sounds to names. So really it's about just understanding when a certain sound happens, what are the consonant sounds? Now, I had another question. Somebody asked me to talk about how to play within the mode. How to add all these jazzy things. The chromatic passing notes is what they meant. And the thing is that when you know the mode you're playing in, it becomes a template. But a template's just it's a map. You know what I mean? It's a roadmap of how you get safely from point A to point B. Doesn't mean you can't hang on a rock for a second, you know what I mean? It's like you can do whatever kind of stunts you want as long as you understand your, as long as you understand what the consonant sounds are. Now, there's one missing chunk of information, and this is why a lot of people that play modes, and understand modes still sound like, still hit weird shit. And that's avoid notes. Now, what are avoid notes? Avoid notes are tensions that are a half step above chord tones. I'll repeat, a half step above chord tones. That's why all jam bands always jam on Dorian and Lydian. There are no avoid notes. Okay? Think about it. Let's take a look again at the mode. So I have the Ionian mode, E Ionian. So 1, 2, 2 is a whole step above 1. Cool. 3, 4 is a half step above 3. So when I'm improvising, I can't land on 4. I can use 4. I should use 4 all the time. Avoid notes are the most colorful parts of the mode because they pull down to the chord tone when you hear them. If I'm playing a phrase in E Ionian, well, it wants to go down. If I'm playing and then the 6 is a whole step above the 5 in this one, so it's fine. If I'm playing Dorian, no avoid notes. 9 is a whole step above the root. 4 is a whole step above flat 3. And 6 is a whole step above 5. Flat 7 is a part of the chord. Okay, so chord tones, by the way, are 1, 3, 5, 7, whatever they be. And tensions are the 2, 4, 6, aka 9, 11, 13, same thing. Okay, Phrygian is the trickiest to play in because it's the only one that has 2 avoid notes. And whenever you kind of have a chord in functional harmony that's kind of like the 3 minor, that's where people make the worst sounds because the flat 6 is an avoid note and the flat 2 is an avoid note. So the flat 2 is a half step above the root and the flat 6 is a half step above the 5th. So when you play phrases in this kind of mode, you gotta be really conscious. Lydian has no avoid notes. 9 is above, or 2 is a whole step above 1, sharp 4 is a whole step above 3, 6 is a whole step above 5. Mixolydian, you have the 4, it's a half step above the 3. Then Aeolian, you have the flat 13, flat 6, it's a half step above the 5. And Locrian, the thing is, wherever in the harmony, wherever you put the minor 7 flat 5 chords, which is the corresponding chord to that mode, to the Locrian mode, it's usually an unstable place in the harmony where you wouldn't really resolve to anyway. But, the flat 9 really is an avoid note, technically. Flat 13 in this one isn't because it's a whole step above the flat 5th. Cool, so those are kind of like the formulas. Now, I guess let me get... and a thing I really like to do is I go on YouTube and I get this drone, Indian drone play along in E. That's what you search for. And then, wait a second. Indian drone in E. That's what I search for. There we go. So it's called Tempura E scale. Then there's an annoying advertisement for 15 seconds, and then they let you play. So yeah. Well, in this 10 seconds, let me tell you about our tour dates. We're going to the East Coast. I'll talk more about that, but we're leaving on Thursday, and that's going to be cool. Okay, here's E. Let's see. Alright, so this is just an E pad. So when I'm practicing these modes, So when I'm practicing these modes, I just keep it on. We're not dealing with functional harmony, it's just with drones. Now, E. So on this I can play all these modes. So I'm gonna go and play the Ionian thing. That was Lydian for a second, but... So I can really, like, root 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Dorian. Phrygian. Lydian. Mixolydian. Aeolian. Locrian. That's actually not gonna work very well because the drone has a fifth in it, so it's gonna clash. But anyway, you get the idea. Now, the thing I was asked about that I said I'd address is like how to use the chromatic stuff. I'll make a whole thing about it. But the idea is as soon as you can see, you know, your good notes, you know, your template, your mode, then you can see the notes in between that connected. So if I have, let me put the drone back on. So if I have this drone and now I'm playing E Dorian, well, I see that these notes belong to E Dorian. And I see the notes in between, so I can just kind of use them on the way to places. So when I'm playing E Dorian, I can kind of play the notes in between and kind of just, if I'm playing with confidence and I know where I'm going, I can kind of... You know, you gotta think about a style like a bebop-y style. It's not so much that there are rules, it's more like you have a map and the way you walk, like, you know, the way you walk the road, you know, it's like your swag is like, is the style. Bebop is just a way of traveling through these things. You know what I mean? They're just like just going here a little bit, there a little bit. You know, like a shred guy would just go, you know, it's just a different way of maneuvering through the same information, you know, of walking through a thing. So, okay, I think that's enough for today. It's like, what, 20-something minutes? Fuck. All right, so let me tell you this. Join us at bandsintown.com/Marbin. That's the best thing to do. It will automatically notify you about all of our adventures. I'm going to read off some dates. So, October 1st, Meeting of the Minds 9 Festival in Schuylkill Haven, Pennsylvania. Then Golden Pony in Harrisonburg day after, October 2nd. Anteroom in Charlottesville, Virginia. Harrisonburg, Virginia. Pennsylvania. Golden Pony. That was terrible. October 2nd, Golden Pony, Harrisonburg, Virginia. October 3rd, Anteroom, Charlottesville, Virginia. October 4th, Sidebar, Baltimore. October 5th, Treehouse Lounge, Washington, D.C. October 6th, World Cafe Live, Philadelphia. October 7th, New York City, Rockwood. Late show, be there. October 8th, Brick House, Dover, New Hampshire. October 9th, Radio Bean, Burlington, Vermont. October 10th, Basement Transitions, Erie, Pennsylvania. October 11th, Flower City Station, Rochester, New York. October 12th, Nietzsche's, Buffalo, New York. October 13th, Hard Lock Bar, Toronto. October 14th, Orchard Guitar Festival at Grumpy Dave's, Bowling Green, Ohio. October 15th, Funk and Waffles, downtown Syracuse. October 16th, Beachland Tavern, Cleveland, Ohio. October 17th, Annabelle in Akron, Ohio. And then they're flying us to Colombia. So, yeah. So, if you're in Colombia, come hang out and show us around, because we've never been. All right, Daniel Bean from Marbin here. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.